You are now watching Surveillance. Donate or subscribe for more sick twists.
All right, guys. Well, we got pretty big news today. We got Ret Paladin changes, class balance buff. Pretty insane. I did not think this was ever going to happen, boys. We are going from big twist to big taunt. Okay, we are big taunting. Now, this is a crazy buff. It's going to give us, I'm guessing, about 10% damage. So you guys can read the post. I'll link it down below. We expect these changes to go sometime like after next week. Probably not Tuesday, but probably the week after, I would imagine. Like I said, very substantial buff. Although I would not say that's overpowered. Now, you guys know Ret was in a pretty bad place before these changes were made. Like pretty bad. So I'm very happy with this. Even though it's not going to completely fix us, it's going to bring us back up to where we should be, which is about where like Fury and Feral are. We might not get all the way up there, but we're going to get pretty close. So that's going to be great. So there's two major changes, which is the first change is a new major glyph, which is Glyph of Reckoning. Your Hand of Reckoning spell no longer taunts, and it can now deal damage to untauntable targets. It cannot be learned from it can be learned from inscription trainers in Dalaran. This was an idea that I came up with, and I've been pushing it in the Light Club Discord for like a few months. So I've been telling everybody about it. I think it's a really good change because it's off the GCD, so it impacts our rotation not at all. Doesn't have any effect on our rotation, which is really good when we get to tier 10 and we have 2-piece. It's good not to have another spell that we have to cast that's on the global cooldown. And it's just gonna help us a lot, especially on like fights where you have like like on Mimiron, taunting the head and stuff like that. It's gonna add a lot of damage in a lot of different fights. The other big change is the Seal of Vengeance dot, which is called Holy Vengeance or Blood Corruption, if you're Hoarder Alliance, is going to now apply. It's going to be applied by Divine Storm and Crusader Strike. So in addition to normal hits. Now this is Terran's idea. He came up with this, and it's not a huge change. It's like way smaller than the other one, but it does have some implications, and it's going to really help on like shorter fights, or like fights with a lot of different phases where you're spending a lot of time ramping up that Seal of Vengeance and losing DPS the whole time. It's going to help on that a lot. Like on Mimiron, getting your new Seal of Vengeance stacked up on the new phase and stuff like that. It's going to be really good for that. Now, this does mean that when you Divine Storm 4 targets, you're going to be putting up a dot on all 4 of those targets that you hit. And that's going to have some implications for Cleave, specifically for like 2 target fights. So let's go down here to the first section I have here, going into the first change, Glyph of Reckoning. The standard glyphs, as you guys know them, the glyphs for any single target fight are going to change, and you're now going to always use Seal of Vengeance, Wreck, and Judge or Avenging Wrath. Avenging Wrath if the fight is good for it, or Judge if it's not. For Cleave, you're always going to use Wreck, Judge, and either Avenging Wrath or Exorcism. Once again, depends if the fight's good for it or not. Judge and Wreck are going to be permaglyphs. You're never going to take them off. It's going to save you some money, hopefully. Wreck is now your #1 glyph. You absolutely never take that off. It's going to be like our strongest glyph by like 5 times or something crazy. So, like I said before, it no longer taunts. Doesn't affect PvP because it's not usable in PvP. So the spell scales with 50% attack power. Now, I was actually wrong. I did say a couple times in the Discord that it was just flat damage and it didn't scale. But that's actually wrong. It does actually scale with half of your attack power. So it is going to continue to scale going into ICC. That being said, it's not going to make us OP in ICC. And the people that think it's going to make us OP in ICC have a very overinflated idea of how much damage Ret is actually going to do in ICC. So, and that's all I'm going to say about that. It's going to continue to hit hard throughout the expansion, okay? This glyph is going to continue to be strong. So what I recommend is just to macro into all your spells. So just macro / cast Hand of Reckoning into all your spells, so you can always cast it every 8 seconds as soon as possible, as fast as possible. It's off the global cooldown, so it can be cast anytime, even when you're on global. Anytime you like run into a boss encounter, you're gonna taunt before you even can judge. Okay, when you're too far away, you're gonna taunt. So it's gonna be like part of your opener now too. Now, I'm not really expecting this to like affect BIS lists or gear, and definitely not spell priority, because it's not going to, like I said, it's not even going to impact the rotation. But it could impact some pieces of gear, some pieces of BIS lists. So if we find anything like that, we'll let you guys know. But we don't know anything like that that would change right off the bat, and I'm thinking that not a lot's going to change in that regard. But we'll let you know. So while it's a substantial increase, like I said, it's about 10%, I think. It's not enough to have us compete with top DPS. In fact, we're still going to be down where Fury and Feral are. But that's in a much better place than we were. So I think in the end, it's going to be seen as quite a good change. So I am very happy they went with my idea. I think this is a great idea. I think it's going to be, I think it's the perfect mix between a good, strong, substantial buff and not being overpowered. So, and now the second change, this was Terran's idea. It's a more minor change, but it's, in my opinion, very welcome. So this one is Seal of Vengeance. It's not going to stack. It's going to be applied by CS and DS. So it can help a lot on shorter fights with a lot of short phases like Mimiron, or just shorter in general, like single target fights. And it's also going to change some of our use cases for Seal of Vengeance and Seal of Command to some degree, not a lot. You're still mostly going to be using Seal of Command for cleaving, but this could also affect PvP like a little bit by making Seal of Vengeance like a little bit more viable. The reason why Seal of Vengeance isn't very good in PvP is because you can just like dispel it faster than it can be stacked. So this might help with that a little bit, but I don't know that much about PvP and Wrath, so I'm not going to speak too much on that. It's also going to make Seal of Vengeance better than Command on like a 2-target fight. So think Iridar Twins and Sunwell. Now, I don't know Wrath, so I don't know if there's any fights like this in the rest of the game. But on a 2-target fight like Iridar Twins, like let's just assume that on Iridar Twins, it would be beneficial to attack both of them at the same time. Then on a fight like that, what you would want to do is stack up Seal of Vengeance on both targets, and then you just cleave off the main target, and your Divine Storm will keep Seal of Vengeance stacked on that other target that you're not hitting. And every time you Divine Storm, it's going to proc a swing roll on every target that has stacks. So if you have 2 targets, they're both 5 stacks, when you DS, you're going to get 2 swings, 1 on each target. Now this is going to, like I said, change where you might use Seal of Vengeance. You might be able to use Seal of Vengeance for a little bit of cleaving now, although I don't expect it to be better than Command for 3 targets or more. So that's pretty much it, honestly. I mean, I just really want to thank everybody who kept pushing for changes, who kept telling Blizzard, like, look, this is not okay, we're in a bad spot, we really need some help. I want to thank everybody for keeping the dream alive, and everybody who took my idea for the Glyph of Reckoning and shared it. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I have my boss guide is still in the works. That should be out later this week. I'm gonna have to tweak it a little bit now because of this change, but I have a boss guide for you guys with guides to every single boss in Ulduar and how to parse. But if you want to catch that stuff early, that stuff is all already in the Phase 2 document, which you can find in the description down below. So if you want to read that stuff ahead of time, you can already do that, but that video will be out by the end of the week. Thanks again, guys, for watching. I just want to take one moment to just kind of bask in this change and to just say, like, I fixed RET Paladin. Like, this was me. I did this. So if anybody ever asks you, like, oh yeah, that RET change was pretty cool, right? You'd be like, oh yeah, that was Surveillant. He fixed us. It was all him, bro. He did that for us. Never forget, okay? Never forget what I did for you guys, okay? I poured my heart and soul into this project. And I hope you enjoy it. Okay, guys? So have fun in raids. I hope this change goes live pretty soon. And like I said, you guys will be seeing a new video from me pretty soon. So, cheers, boys. Oh, also, this is probably not going to lead to other changes for other classes because Blizzard basically said in their post that they are not going to continue making class balance changes. Actually, we could just pull up the post real quick and just go through it. 1 sec. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to get this set up. Okay, there we go. So this is Blizzard's post. As you can see, they're announced that they're making changes to RET. I already went over the changes with you guys. Now, they have a couple goals listed here. They said goals to give RETs a slight bump to bring them on par with Fury Warriors right now. And like I said, I think it's going to do that. This is going to probably put us right about where Fury is. Using the end of the previous tier as a baseline, Fury Warriors were also close to the bottom of the meters, but as new, more powerful gear is beginning to be acquired, they are trending upward, yada yada yada. So they want us to be where they are now. Now, they also say we wanted to be very careful not to overbuff RET now and cause issues for ourselves in later tiers such as ICC, where RET has an extremely powerful tier set. Now, I think extremely powerful is a overstatement because it's only like 6% for the 2-piece bonus. The 4-piece bonus is also really good too, so don't sleep on that. But like people that think that RET's #1 DPS in ICC is just not true. We're pretty good, but I think some people overstate that. But anyway. So they don't want to make us a top DPS class, okay? Goal to minimize 0 PvP impact with this change. As of right now, Hand of Reckoning does not do anything in PvP, so it's not going to help. But the Seal of Vengeance thing will impact PvP. So actually they're not maintaining 0 impact. Unless their Seal of Vengeance thing does not apply to players. But if it does actually impact PvP. Although I don't think, it might not impact it a lot. I'd have to talk to somebody who's a PvPer about that. If like Seal of Vengeance is viable now, but it might still just be bad. So even with this change. So smooth out the poor gameplay of having to build stacks of Seal of Vengeance when there is downtime or target swapping occurs. Now this is very important because this is something people hate about playing RET. Every single time you swap targets, or you have like a new phase change, you have to restack your buffs. Everybody hates that shit. Okay, so we're past that now. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And goal, don't make massive mechanical changes to how Retribution plays. Hand of Reckonings off the GCD can easily be weaved in. It has no effect on the rotation at all, which is awesome. And these are all points that I brought up when I was coming up with this idea. So now these are things that they are not trying to do. They're trying to specifically avoid these things, okay? Not a goal, these are things they're not aiming for, okay? Not a goal is to not make, they don't want to make Retribution competitive with the highest specs. They don't want us to be competing with rogues and DKs and fire mages, okay? Because we have crazy utility. The fact that we were even still being brought to raids should just be a testament to how crazy our utility actually is. Like, it's pretty good. And I know a lot of you guys are like, well, our utility is covered by other classes. And it's true, it is. All of our like DPS utility, like the haste, is covered by other classes. But Divine Sacrifice is not. And that is a very important spell. That is pretty much the main reason we were still being brought to raids, especially for like Algalon. So it's good to see that our DPS will be brought up a little bit to make up for the fact that we aren't providing as much utility. But you still got to remember, Divine Sac and Aura Mastery are still incredibly powerful. And you can't buff RET too much or you might start stacking it. So I get that, okay? They don't want that. Like you see here, they talk about our utility and how good it is. And now I don't think our utility is that great besides these two specifically, which I think are amazing. So that's pretty much how I feel about that. Most raid groups typically have a single RET Paladin. We feel that 1 or 2 is still a good target. And I agree with that, although I would say that the average raid has half a RET Paladin, if you know what that means. Like the average raid has a RET Paladin that also plays Prot or Holy. Or the average raid has a RET Paladin that also plays an alt when they have to. Or the average raid just has a RET and some don't. Like some do and some don't. So like the average raid is like maybe 50, 60, 70% likely to have a RET. Now, a lot of these average guilds actually ditched their RET, or they didn't have a RET and they just stopped recruiting them. So there's actually a decent number. Like when we first started the expansion, the amount of parses that you saw for RETs was like really, really high because all these people started playing RET for the first time, and the class was like getting more popular because like RET and Wrath is historically people say it's really fun. And, you know, people were super hyped. There's a lot of parses on the logs. And then the last couple months, we saw that number declining. And a lot of people re-rolling. So, especially in average guilds. Now, in top guilds, they still brought RET because of their ability to switch specs really easily. So, that, like, one of the big things about RET is just being able to play prot if you have to. So, I get with them. They don't want us to they don't want us to compete with the top DPS, and I totally agree and understand. Okay, so the next thing that's on a goal is to embark on an effort to provide ongoing balance. Now, I said this to you guys earlier. They're not going to continue buffing anybody. Okay, warriors scale well. They don't need a buff. Okay, not really much to say here. And then also not a goal is to bring all of the classes with poor PvE output up similarly. Frost mages, sub rogues, arms warriors, beast mastery hunters. I mean, they're not real specs though. Like those aren't real raid specs anymore. And so they don't really need a buff in the same way that RET did, because those are specs that are not designed to be brought to a raid. They're PvP specific specs. They're not meant to be doing lots of damage in a raid. So for us to be at the same level as them, something was severely wrong. And they don't need a buff. I mean, the only exception here might be like arms and BM. Like those can be somewhat real specs to a degree. But Frost and Sub, these are not real specs. So the fact that they could keep up with us was bullshit. Anyways, so they don't want to open up Pandora's box and keep making changes. So they're just not going to keep changing shit. Now I talked to Agrend. I told him it was a good change. I think he did a great job with this. And also, I'm not expecting them to tweak this any further. I think they're going to probably keep it where it is now. But there is a possibility that they might make one change, and that is this change right here, with Vengeance now stacking on Crusader Strike and Divine Storm. They might make this, the Divine Storm part, only apply to the primary target, so that when you're cleaving, the dot only goes on your primary target and not everything you cleave. But that's something that might come in the future. It's yet to be seen. That is one change that I might expect to happen. But the other, this glyph, I'm expecting this to stay in the game unchanged, exactly the way it is. Once again, I think this is a great idea, obviously, because it's my idea. But anyways, I'm gonna let you guys go now. The video is probably getting pretty long and there's not a whole lot to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll have another video soon. I hope you guys enjoy the change. I hope you do a lot more damage, and I hope this makes you enjoy the class more. Thanks to everybody out there for watching my videos. And if you want to support the channel, you can go down into the description and donate to my Patreon or my PayPal. So thanks guys. Or you can come watch me stream. Actually, Sunday night I'll be streaming Firefighter Hard Mode and also Hodir. So if you guys want to see that, come on by and we'll talk about the changes. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.